Hello, hello, my friends. It is day number 2 of our intuition scavenger hunt. All right, I'm just going to hang for a second, let people jump on. Got the church bells ringing, telling me that it's noon. All right, hang out, come and say hello when you jump on. Maybe some of you are grabbing lunch and you can come join us today for our day number 2, and it is windy today. I was going to go skiing tonight, but it is super windy, although the temperature is nice and the wind is not freezing cold. All right, hello, say hello. Hi, Zena. Say hello in the comments when you jump on. I'm using StreamYard.com, so if you have not registered, I won't be able to see your name, which is fine if you don't want to, but it helps me be on several pages all at once, so I can see more of you. Hey, Miss Kim, good to see you. All right, here we go. Okay, so I am Jody Harvala. This is day 2 of our intuition scavenger hunt. I'm a psychic medium, spiritual teacher, pretty badass space clearer, and I have been doing the scavenger hunt for, I don't know, 4 years maybe, 5 years maybe. I think this might be my 5th year. And I have found that it is a great space to bring in some cheer and some fun and remind people to get connected, remind people that life is supposed to be a little bit fun. And I think it helps to remind people that everyone is intuitive and sometimes you just need to develop it a little bit. I am absolutely a developed psychic medium. I had some little things as a kid. I saw ghosts and things like that, but nothing major. And as I got older, I was getting more drawn to this kind of work, which was a complete shock to me. I did not think I would grow up to be a psychic medium, but it's just the path that showed up for me, right? So I love to teach about it, and I love to teach about how to use it in your daily life. So some people I do train to be psychic mediums, but a lot of people just want to feel more empowered. They want to feel more safe in their skin. They want to have more confidence. They want to trust themselves a little bit more. So intuition is a little bit more than just what the surface of it is. There's way more to it. All right. Hello. Aubrey says angel parking so far today. Awesome. Love it. We love our angel parking. Got to call in your parking angels. Okay, so yesterday we talked about connecting with the light, connecting with spirit, connecting with that God energy, connecting up into a higher vibration. And that is really important to do. And if you have not done that, do that first before you do today's second clue, okay? Because I do think it does help. It helps you feel a little bit more grounded because you're going to connect to the heavens. You're going to connect to the ground. And so you're connected both heaven and earth. Okay. And so I find that if you can center yourself, ground yourself, get yourself into more of a connected, calm place, it's almost easier to see the signs. You can still see the signs, but I do think it's easier if you pay attention to yourself first and get your energy in a place that feels more powerful to you. Because if you're all scattered, it's going to be really hard to see the signs. Okay. So it's also teaching you that each morning, if you start out in a state of being a little bit more centered, a little bit more grounded, a little bit more in a responding place, then your day, you can respond to it instead of always being in reaction mode. Okay. All right. So day number 2, today is all about asking for signs from your loved ones that have crossed over. And this can be animals, this can be grandma, grandpa, this can be a child, this can be uncles, like it can be all of that. It can also be your spirit team too. So if you haven't had anyone pass away in your life, and it's not often that I hear that, but sometimes I do, you can also use this as signs from your spirit team as well. But today, our focus is on signs from our loved ones. Now, here's the thing. Everyone is a medium to their own degree, however you want that to be. Some people just use that and develop that tool for their own self to connect with their own loved ones. Some people want to take it farther and they want to do readings for other people and they want to get training and they want to take classes. I have lots of people that I mentor on that kind of piece. And so this isn't necessarily that you need to go and become a medium and talk to dead people. This is more about learning how to connect with your loved ones that have passed, because we're often miss them so much. And we need some kind of connection, but you got to learn how that they speak to you now, because it's going to be different than when they had a physical body. And so today I would recommend trying different ways of going about this. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But when you have a loved one that crossed over, a lot of people will ask me, how fast can they come through? And I've seen lots of different time frames. I got a message from my mother-in-law, I think it was 2 hours after she passed away, because I know a lot of mediums. And so people were sending me messages right off the bat. I know people that haven't heard from loved ones for quite a while, especially if it's a little bit more of a traumatic death. Sometimes it takes a little bit. So I think it's super individual. In my experience, other mediums, other teachers are going to teach that different. In my experience, to me, it's all over the board. And loved ones can come through in lots of different ways. And again, like I said yesterday, if you have something happen and your thought goes to, oh, I wonder if that was grandma, most likely, yes, it is. If you find yourself asking that question, almost always, yes, it is. And I have a lot of people on the other side now. And so I don't know that it is always possible to discern necessarily specifically who it is. I have certain signs that I know kind of match with certain loved ones. But I also sometimes just get a message and I'm like, oh, I'll just take that from everybody, kind of as a collective message. Oftentimes I get a lot of people asking me like, oh my God, the lights keep flickering. So-and-so must be getting a hold of me. Like, what do they have for me? What's the message? And they get very concerned that there's some warning or some message. Oftentimes, you guys, it's just a hello. I'm here. I love you. Not going anywhere. I'm here just to let you know that I'm still here. I see what's happening in your life. Very seldom is it something like an emergency kind of message. That comes from us. That comes from our fear. That comes from our panic. That comes from us worried that we need warnings all the time. And so today is more about just receiving the message, whatever it might be. And so I have seen lots of subtle messages from loved ones, and I've seen big, huge messages from loved ones. And this is also a practice in following. If you get a nudge or a hit to do something, to listen to it. So my favorite story on this is when my mother-in-law passed away several years ago now. I knew I was going to take a trip out to see my sister-in-law and the kids, because our kids are the same age, just she's got girls, I got boys. And we were going to do this trip, and I love to control trips, so I had everything booked already. And on the way to the hotel that we were going to stay at, she made a comment, boy, I wish, we should have called and stayed at the Zermatt because it's so cool and you guys would really love it. And she goes, but they're almost always booked up. And I was like, oh, and I had a nudge. And she had just passed recently. And I was like, I think we should call. And I said, I'm going to call. She was driving, so I called. And just so happened they had 2 rooms left. And the 2 rooms were right next to each other. And they were overlooking the little outside entertainment area. And I was like, done, book it. And I started laughing and I was like, Priscilla must be hanging out with us and helping us out. And so then we got to the hotel. Beautiful. Oh my God. If you've ever in Park City, stay at the Zermatt, because it was beautiful. And there's a John Denver guy there, like a lookalike type guy. And he was doing a concert. And then all of a sudden, we had been swimming and all this kind of stuff. And the kids were really kind of tired. So we both kind of retired to our own rooms, but we had the windows open. And all of a sudden there was a yodeler, and she used to yodel all the time. And so we were texting each other and yelling through the window, oh my God, do you hear the yodeler? Do you hear that? And it was so fun because we knew that was grandma coming through, and the kids knew it. So that was really fun. But not only did that happen on that trip, but on the way home, I kept getting, even on the way out, and when I was planning the trip, I was like, on the way home, I think I want to come through Yellowstone, and I think I'm supposed to go down through Red Lodge on the way home. And it didn't make sense. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm not really pulled to go to Red Lodge, maybe to check it out for skiing. Maybe I'm supposed to look at the ski hill or something. But it was such a knowing that I was supposed to go on that drive through Yellowstone. And I didn't realize I was going over the mountain pass. And so that was scary as shit. And also incredibly empowering. So we come down out of Red Lodge, or out of the mountain pass into Red Lodge, and we're starving. And we go downtown, and I asked someone where to eat, and they told me where to eat. And I was like, oh, okay, but I didn't connect the name. And so we pull in front of this restaurant, and I look up, and I'm like, oh my God, look at that. I was like, look at the name of that restaurant. And it was called Foster's and Logan's. And my oldest son's name is Foster, and her dog's name was Logan. And I was like, well, you just can't make that shit up. And so I made Foster stand in front of the restaurant, and I took pictures, and we had never been to Red Lodge, and it's tiny. And so I sent it to the whole family, and the whole family was like, yeah, we can't even make that up. Like that. Okay. That's a sign right there. And so it was super funny because I had such a feeling and such a nudge to do that. And we were so tired. So it definitely added a few hours to our trip, but like it was just so amazing. And she brings through a lot of really cool messages. One of my best friends since childhood, when her dad passed, oh, so sad. It was so sad. And I was telling the kids, I'm going to have to leave on Labor Day weekend. That's when the funeral is, and we're going to go. And I want to make sure I'm there to support the family and to support Sandy. And all of a sudden this car comes right next to us, kind of slow, and the license plate said Sandy on it. And I was like, oh, holy shit, take a picture. And that man brings more cool messages through, and he's got so many strong messages. But it was just the timing of it, that car showing up, the name on the light, like it was so cool. And so I want you guys to be open to some of these kinds of messages. Sometimes I think the message is for you in the language that you're going to understand, not always in the language that your loved one would have spoke. So my example on that is my dad passed not last year, the year before. And I had to think, I'm like, oh, how long has it been? And the day he passed, the very first message, and I got it really quick, was a sign that said good vibes only. And I was like, oh, that's totally my dad. Like, that's totally my dad. I know that's my dad. My dad would never say that. That is not his language. He would never say that, but I would say that. And that day, my husband and I, we had such a lovely day that day. I was surrounded by friends, and my husband and I just needed to kind of get out a little bit. We went to Menards, because that's what you do when your dad dies. And we were going to buy a screen door and all this kind of stuff. And I turned around because I knew we had to go to Menards. And he's like, I think today isn't a day we need to go to Menards. And I'm like, no, I want a screen door, and you need something to do, because if he doesn't have a project, he goes crazy. And I said, nope, I think I think you need to put in a screen door, and we're supposed to go to Menards. And he's like, okay, whatever. So we went to Menards, and I turned around, and there's this big wooden sign that said good vibes only. And I looked at Eli, and he looked at me, and he goes, okay, we have to buy that. That's from your dad. And I'm like, oh my God. And that message of good vibes only comes through all the time. It's so fun to see it, because I know it's from my dad. I have a t-shirt. I was in Sedona one time, and I kept looking kind of for signs from my dad, and I went and bought some new hiking boots, and they had a little sticker, and I just happened to look over and see the sticker said good vibes only. So I do think there is some really cool ways that loved ones can come through. And I don't want you to get set on one specific way that they need to show up for you, because that's where people get stuck, is they want the absolute detail stuff of how they should come through. And I think you need to leave it more open than that, and see what maybe you need to hear, or what maybe your heart needs to hear. Does that make sense, you guys? All right. Hold on, let me make sure we have everyone here that should be here. Okay. So Pamela says, my dad always messes with me. He has a great sense of humor and likes to make a grand entrance. Doors flying open or slam closed. I envision him laughing his ass off. Yeah, that happened one time. I did a gallery, and I always use my chiropractor's office. And I was like, I had some skeptical people that evening. I'm like, come on, spirit, do something. Like, make your presence known. And a door that never opens totally opened and freaked these 4 ladies out. I, of course, laughed my ass off, which I shouldn't have, but it was so funny. But yeah, spirit likes to mess with people. Kelly said she heard from her aunt a few hours after she passed when about to fall asleep and super relaxed. Yep, she spoke to me telepathically and said a couple things to each other. She wanted me to know where she was and that she was at peace and surrounded by those who loved her. Oh, that's awesome. She said it was so beautiful to hear from her and really put me at a peace about her passing. Yeah, when I was little, that was actually one of my experiences when my dad's mom passed. My poor dad. When my dad's mom passed, I was sleeping and we knew she was going to be passing. We knew that it was coming, and I was sleeping and I felt something sit on my bed, and it was my grandma. And she said, I'm just stopping by to tell you that it's time for me to go, and I love you and everything's fine. Everything's okay, but it's time for me to go. And I was like, okay. And I woke up that morning and my dad came in and sat on my bed, same spot that my grandma had sat. And he said, I need to tell you something. And I said, oh, I know, grandma died. And he was like, how do you know that? And he goes, and I said, oh, because she came in my dreams and told me that it was time for her to go and she's fine. And he just stared at me and he just stood up and he walked out of the room and didn't talk about it again. And that was one of my very first experiences with that. And it was so interesting. And I found out about this years later is, I am not a fan of open caskets. And when my grandma's funeral, she had an open casket. And I remember I was just sobbing at her visitation. I just couldn't get my shit together. And I was young. And I remember asking them, or I don't remember asking this. My cousin filled this blank in for me. She said, yeah, you kept asking us if we were sure that she was dead because you could still feel her. And I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, I remember it clear as day. She said, I know that you said that. I remember it. I remember asking my dad if you were going to be okay. And he just told me that you were a sensitive soul and you're probably going to be better off than we were. Like, there's so many beautiful things that can happen and we're just not aware of it. Okay. Deborah said, I seem to see pieces of paper that I didn't leave there. Just ran across one from my mom and my mom from a label that had been on a gift a year, and it was lying on the floor by the bed. Oh, yes. Lots and lots of stuff like that. Nope. Rebecca, you're out. You guys, I don't ever invite these people that are saying to message them for readings and stuff. They are scammers. Do not do that. Okay. All right. We just got to keep an eye on that when people get overly excited. Okay. So when you're looking for signs, it can be a million different things, you guys. It could be notes. It could be pennies from heaven. It could be different memes that keep saying the same thing. It could be different colors that keep showing up. So remember yesterday, I was telling you guys about Angie, who was always asking for the purple elephants or blue elephants, if I tell it. Yep, I see you, Lily. She had to text me this morning and she said, I have a really funny story for you, because she knew I was telling that story yesterday. And she said, today I got dressed and I noticed I'm wearing all blue. Everything I'm touching is blue. My coffee cup is blue. Everything's blue. She said, then I went to the store and she said, I was kind of laughing because I was thinking about the blue elephant, purple elephant story. She goes, and then I went to the store to pick something up and this lady had put it in this cute little bag and the bag has elephants all over it. And I just busted out laughing because, again, the elephants are showing up for her. And I was like, I got to make sure that I tell people that story again. So as soon as the energy starts to move, the signs start to show up. But you got to have a little fun with it. Okay. So today it is all about asking your loved ones for signs. So connect to the light, do your grounding. In the email yesterday, we sent out a quick little meditation you can do. And then you just simply ask your loved ones for a sign. I would keep it generic. I would not ask for anything specific. I think when you're first learning how to do this, it's just great to stay very open with the signs and just see what keeps showing up over the week. Because maybe you won't get your sign today, but maybe you'll get something on Thursday or Friday. Doesn't have to be on my timing. Today, we're doing loved one signs. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get the energy moving, or maybe to get you in the place that you're supposed to go see so you can see the sign. And just pay attention today. Pay attention tomorrow. Pay attention all week and see what keeps repeating. And oftentimes that's what it is when you start to see a loved one from spirit. Okay. Paula said, this morning I found an old notebook in my office cabinet and I said, what is that? It was my grandpa's and it says tackle box in his calligraphy writing. See, so many cool things, you guys. I love it. I cleared a house one time and this lady's aunt had passed away and there were several family members and they were completely new to what I was doing. So they were very skeptical and not really into what I was saying or what I was doing. And then all of a sudden we turned around and you know those little chocolates, the Dove chocolates with the messages in them? There was a Dove chocolate sitting on the floor in the middle of the room. We had all been in that room for at least an hour. That chocolate hadn't been there. And so I was like, someone's got to open up the chocolate, see what the message is. And there was this great little message in there. And I was like, can't make that up. And then they were like, well, maybe you just dropped it. I'm like, I'm not going to drop a chocolate. Like, I'm not going to do that. And so stay open to those weird things that just show up. Like, do I actually see the spirit of them? I usually feel the energy of the loved ones. I usually feel them. I don't necessarily see dead people out in front of me. I prefer not to. I like to see them in my head. So some people do, some people don't. When I first started to learn all of this stuff, not at all. Mine was more like I could feel their presence. I could get the little cool signs that felt more safe to me. And so I asked for that. But as I develop my intuition, sure, I can see them at times, but for me, it's in my head. Okay, friends, any questions on today's fun little clue, asking loved ones? And remember, please, please, please share your stories. Please post it. Let us know what you're seeing. Let us know what's happening. Anytime you have these great things that happen, post and tag me in it, because that helps other people learn how to see the signs for themselves too, because they might see your story and be like, oh shit, I've had that happen to me. I guess I didn't realize that. And so you want to post some of your shares, you guys. Paula said, I just felt a very strong chill come over me when you were talking about the chocolate candy. All right. So you could post it on your wall. You can post it on my Facebook page. You can post it on Mighty Networks. So wherever you would like to. It's good to keep a list of your hits. Yep. Unless you get really, if you get really concerned about finding your hits, then I wouldn't keep a list at first. I would just have fun with it. Okay. Kelly said, I'm watching on Facebook. Is there another? I'm using StreamYard. I don't know why you're not seeing anyone's comments though. It might be just on the page that you're watching it on, Kelly, because I'm on several different pages. So maybe someone's not in that page. Carla said, great. Carla said, do you get any physical signs like them touching you or bumping you? I have had physical, I've had several different physicality things happen. I often will feel someone's hand on my shoulder if a loved one's coming in. I ask for that though. So when I got brave enough to ask for it, I'd be like, okay, like my dad, I'll be like, okay, dad, like come in closer so I can feel your energy. Put your hand on my shoulder. Like I ask for some of that. I've had some different things when I'm clearing houses that I'll be pushed a little bit, or I can feel the pressure of their energy trying to move me in a certain direction. So yeah, it definitely you can have physical signs from them. Absolutely. And yep, someone else just said the smell of my grandma's lotion. Yep. I always thought my dad was a big smoker. So I always thought I would smell cigarette smoke. But I haven't. But I saw a lady at the convenience store the other day, and she was buying my dad's kind of cigarettes, and she was having the damnedest time to get the guy to grab the right pack. And I started to laugh, and I was like, I'm so happy you're asking for those. Like, I'm not a big like smoker girl, but I said that's making me think about my dad. He died last year, and that was the kind of cigarettes that he had. And as soon as I said it, then the guy was able to get exactly what she wanted. And so watch for things out in the world too. Okay. Music is another way that they come through, all sorts of really kind of fun stuff. So how do we begin this journey? I would just join me every day at noon and start to practice some of the intuition things that we do. Then we're going to be moving in, and I'll tell you more about this towards the end of the week. We're going to be going into some things around spirit school and a community that I'm creating and classes and different things like that. So we'll get into that. But right now, I would just have you join us every day at noon, because then you can start to practice some of this stuff and see how it works for you. And if you guys are not seeing the signs right off the bat, it's okay. It's okay. It's new. For a lot of people, it's new. It takes some practice. It takes some getting used to. Sometimes there's some fear around it. Sometimes there is just some resistance to it because it is so new. Our heads can't make sense of it. That's why you want to stay in that centered space. Okay. Any other questions? Great questions, my friends. Okay. So I want to remind you, go ahead and post your shares. You can post on my Facebook wall or on my business page. You can tag me if you post it on your own. Share with your friends. Just say, oh my gosh, I just got a sign from my grandma. Give people permission that it's okay to see signs from their loved ones. You would be amazed how many people actually want to talk about it. But they don't, because they're afraid someone's going to think they're weird until they meet someone that there's like, I get signs from my dad too, or I get signs from my grandma. Mona says, I see hummingbirds and not sure if it's my mom or my grandma. I would say it's probably both if you're thinking about both of them. Sometimes it comes collectively from your loved ones. I said that at the beginning of the beginning of my recording today. I said sometimes, like, I have a lot of people that have passed over now. So sometimes I'll see a sign and I don't really know who it's connected to. And so it's just more of a collective loving message to say, hey, we're here. We still love you. We know what's happening. We haven't gone away. I often see cardinals. That's my sign for my grandma. And so anytime I see a cardinal, it's always in this weird kind of time frame. And I was going to say, oh my God, there's one in my tree, but it's not. And so I know it's her. I know my dad is good vibes only. I know my dad is the one that puts different shapes in the clouds sometimes. So you start to learn that over time. Kristen, great question. She said, how do you get past the fear? I really think it's a practice. When you're calling in your loved ones, what a lot of people, kind of pinpoint what you're fearful about. First of all, a lot of people, I'll hear this a lot, is they think if they start to open up that door to their loved ones, that they're going to let something evil in or something awful in. And that's just not how it works, you guys. It is more of a, law of attraction. If your energy is in this loving space and you're thinking about your loved ones and you're thinking about grandma or mom or dad or whoever passed away, that's a loving thing. That is not a low vibration, shitty energy, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're not going to attract that energy. That's not how it works. You're going to attract the loving energy. Okay. So sometimes it's good to see and figure out where the fear is actually coming from and then talk it through. Bring it here. Let's talk about it, because if you have it, someone else does too. Okay, hold on a second. Some weird people jumping in here. Yep, Ruby, hold on. You can probably hear my cat in the background. I see hummingbirds. Oh yeah, we said that one. I usually see animal signs and it's very obvious in my face. Yep. I just have a cardinal at my feet. Oh, Paula, that's awesome. So say hi to my grandma. Yeah, when my grandma died, it was really interesting because I was really close to her and it was a hard death for me. It was like when grandmas die, that's a tough one. And that night, I remember just praying to her and I said, all right, grandma, if you are where you're supposed to be and you're with grandpa, I said, show me a red bird. And I didn't know to be a little bit more a little bit more generic, but I just said a red bird. It just came to me. So that's what I said. And in the morning, I opened up my email and I used to follow this artist. And she goes, oh, I have a new painting I just am releasing today. And I opened up the email and I looked, sure as shit, it's a red cardinal. And so I knew that would be my symbol for my grandma. I think that was my biggest fear of letting something else on. Yeah. Yep. Yep. A lot of people do. They get really fearful of letting in, dark, shitty energies, and it just doesn't work that way. You have to have really shitty dark energy, or your fear might create that experience in a way. But that's your fear. And so if you get into that loving space, that's what you're attracting. And it's a really normal fear when you get into this stuff. I used to really struggle with that myself. But my fear was creating shitty experiences. I wasn't calling anything in. The vibration of my fear was creating different things that would happen. And then I was like, oh, well, if my fear is that strong, I wonder how strong my light is. And so then I started to create out of my light instead of so much of my fear. So when you want to hear from like your kitties, Pamela, I would start to watch maybe if they had a certain place that they would sit on the bed, or if you're like Ruby here, she usually rubs up against my leg or, my ankles and things like that. So you might want to notice if you notice a little heat coming in near your feet, because sometimes that's them. Or if you're sitting in the chair, maybe they used to sit in your lap, all of a sudden your lap heats up. Sometimes that's a sign from them. Sometimes they'll go into the different certain places, like our dog, when I was young, when he passed, like for weeks, we kept stepping over the place that he always laid in the living room. And all of us did it. And he wasn't there anymore, but we just kept stepping over his spot in the living room. And finally, my dad's like, all right, I hear you. Like, we got to get another dog. Like, my parents have always had dogs. And he just knew, he's like, I got to stop stepping over him in the living room. We got to get a new dog. And so they went out and got a new dog, and we all stopped doing that. So watch for the places that your cat hung out a lot. Love it, Paula. Oh, Deborah, that's awesome. So she said, bees is what I designated for my dad. One came in my car and my window was only cracked. He came in twice, walked around my dash and on me before leaving again. Yeah. Yep. It's really fun when you can have a symbolism like that. So it's not necessarily their spirit is in the animal. It's more that animal is the symbol of them for you, if that makes sense. And so it can be bees, hummingbirds, dragonflies, cardinals. When Priscilla passed, they saw a dove come up off the house. It can be songs. So my friend's husband passed, and we have a really funny, one of my fun memories of him is I had just gotten dumped and I listened to Bon Jovi like 24/7. And he was like, oh my God, stop listening to that CD. And so as soon as he passed, every time I think about him, Bon Jovi comes on the radio. And so it could be stuff like that too. Okay. All right, my friends, that is what I have for you today. Day number 2 of the scavenger hunt. I'm really excited to hear about your stories. Please, please, please share them on Facebook. Tag me in them. I think it's super fun for everyone to see everyone's stories and messages. It helps us recognize it in our own life. And then I will be back tomorrow at noon Central right here, and we'll go for day number 3. Okay. All right, guys, have a great, great day. And I hope you get tons and tons of signs from your loved ones, and we will be back tomorrow. Bye, guys.